Hello teachers! There are so many things to consider when you're starting a new classroom. Culture, language, and worldview are three things I want to discuss with you today. Not only what they mean, but how they work in a classroom and why it's important for us to understand as teachers. Before we begin, I want you to be able to brainstorm some of these ideas on your own. So go ahead and grab a pen and piece of paper and write down what comes to mind when you think about culture, language, and worldview. Maybe even try to write out your own definitions for each of these things. And then we'll come back together and we'll unpack it. Now that you've had some time to write down your own thoughts, let's navigate a little further into this topic. Let's start with culture. Culture is the beliefs, values, social norms, material traits, or characteristic features of everyday existence of a group. That's a mouthful. So let's break it down a little bit. When people think of culture, a lot of things that might come to mind can be language, food, music, visual arts, drama, celebrations, even games. These are all great representations of what culture can be, but there's so much more to culture that's under the surface. So let's talk a little bit about that. Some of these things can include facial expressions, problem solving, notions of leadership, concept of time, body language. These are all things that are a little harder to recognize in culture because they're deeper aspects of culture. An easy way for us to see this is using something called the Iceberg concept of culture. This gives us a really good picture of the different depths of culture and how the deeper you go, the more emotional load is for somebody experiencing a culture different from their own. Next, let's look at language. Language is defined as the words, their pronunciation, and the methods of combining them to communicate. We don't always see language as something that changes depending on the culture, but it's actually a huge area that we can look at to be able to see how different cultures vary in their beliefs and values. Lastly, let's look at worldview. Worldview is the lens, cultural, lingual, and identity factors that color your judgment perception you see the world through. Worldview influences every aspect of our life. Worldview also isn't just about where you're from geographically, but it's also influenced by how you were raised, your gender, your race, the level of schooling you've reached, your own life experiences. All of these things change the way we see the world and those around us. So how do these things fit together? As human beings, it's easy for us to categorize things differently based on how we view the world or the culture and language. In many places, being able to compartmentalize is highly valued for its efficiency. Unfortunately, sometimes this translates into categorizing people. We do this in two ways: like me and unlike me. We even take this a step further by making unlike me equal to bad and like me equal to good. This can result in us making bad into good and wanting to make unlike me into like me. It takes 2.4 to 4.6 seconds for us to make a judgment and to deem something as bad or good. This, for the most part, is done unconsciously, and it happens so quick. Sadly, our thoughts can then influence our actions. We judge people based on their race, height, weight, gender, so many different things. We take external things and attribute meaning to them, and we stereotype. All this under 5 seconds. But do not lose hope. There are ways for us to combat negative judgment and stereotyping that can lead to prejudice. We can achieve balance and discernment. If we are aware of the ways that we are ethnocentric and we believe how we perceive things, or that our worldview is better than another, basically I'm right, you're wrong, this is the first place we can start to combat this. In order to begin this process of non-judgment, we have to be able to understand how we view the world. This is crucial for us as followers of Jesus and as teachers, because how we treat people, like our students, is dependent on the way we think about them. The way we think about them is dependent on the way we perceive or judge them. And that is all dependent on our worldview. It is like wearing tinted colored glasses, and everyone has a different colored tint. Therefore, everyone is seeing a slightly different world. So we need to identify our own worldviews and how they influence how we love or don't love other people. We've identified how people just view situations differently. We've dug deeper into the meaning of culture and language. Now, hopefully, we know ourselves a tad bit better to be able to see the way our worldview colors our judgment. As Christian teachers who want to bear the image of Christ and bring the good news to the ends of the earth, we have to excel at navigating language and culture. The good news is you don't need great knowledge to do so, but you do need great humility. I hope this lesson has helped you understand these things a little better and that you are encouraged to move forward in learning more.